Hey YouTubers, happy 2017. So starting the year off right, Ben Affleck just trolling the fandom just a little bit about the Batman movie. So I'm going to explain what's going on. He talked about maybe they're not going to do it. So I included the most epic of Ben Affleck rants in this. It'll make you so excited about the Batman movie. There is a new round of the Flash Ring giveaway. All you have to do to enter is be a subscriber and just leave a Batman related comment on this video. Be sure to click that bell to enable alerts so you don't miss anything. So what's going on? Is Ben Affleck really trolling fans? Maybe I won't do the Batman movie. You know, if there's not a script, if it's not great, we're not going to do anything. So there's just so much stuff going on that makes me believe that this is not completely true. Rob Liefeld actually had like a hot take where he's like, that's called leverage, because Ben Affleck is writing the script with Geoff Johns, of course, and he's directing, meaning that as the actor who is doing all these other things too, he effectively has almost complete creative control over the Batman movie, which as a creator is what you want. But the thing is that Batman is the biggest franchise that Warner Brothers has had in the last 20 to 30 years. Like, it's literally the biggest money earner they've ever had, next to Harry Potter and the J.R.R. Tolkien movies like The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings. So they're not going to take that and let anybody do whatever they want to with it, no matter how awesome they are and how big they've been blowing it up in Hollywood. Because when you think of Ben Affleck, like, a bunch of different pictures come into your mind. Like, you think of Kevin Smith era Ben Affleck, you think of Daredevil, Jennifer Garner era Ben Affleck, and then you think of like director era Ben Affleck that brought him to today, like the person who wins Oscars for directing movies. But what's the actual quote that everybody's been circulating and freaking out about? So there was a big profile on him for his other movies, like he's doing Live by Night. That's being released in a couple weeks. We'll talk about that in a second because it's the next big candidate next to the Super Bowl for the new Justice League trailer. So that's like a completely separate thing. But they're doing this big profile on Ben Affleck, you know, how much his life has changed now that he's been directing all these award-winning movies and he's taken on the persona of the Batman. So when they asked him about the Batman movie that he is making, he says, well, that's the idea, but it's not a set thing and there's no script, which makes you freak out a little bit, but then goes on to say, if it doesn't come together in a way I think is really great, I'm not going to do it. So I think we're all in agreement when we say Ben Affleck is definitely going to do the Batman movie. It's just that they're trying to avoid repeating the past, so they want to wait for the right script with the right creative before they actually start rolling cameras and start scheduling stuff, like scheduling a release date. Even though they've kind of pushed the second Justice League a little bit further out than it was supposed to drop to make room for the Batman movie, they're just like hoping that it all comes together and it drops during 2018. So when Ben Affleck says that they don't have a script yet, really what I think he's saying is that they don't have a finished script. They've been working on the Batman movie. Like, Geoff Johns was almost radio silent for all of last year, but he has a whole bunch of other stuff on his plate in addition to the Batman movie. So like at the beginning of this year, like Geoff Johns just went on this complete rant where he's like, I'm so excited about all the stuff that's coming. Like, it was wonderful because he's been so quiet for so long. But he was talking about the Wonder Woman movie just because that's the next big DC movie. He was involved in that, but it's sort of like tail end Zack Snyder. So I think that Zack Snyder's wife was still a producer on the film. So it's sort of like the beginning of Geoff Johns' era, but it's not like 100% Geoff Johns creative. And then they've been editing the Justice League film and getting Aquaman off the ground. So now that Geoff Johns is like one of the new gods of DC films inside Warner Brothers, he just has like so many other projects to take care of. So he had to stop writing comics for a little while, which was a huge bummer, which is done now because he said, I will be writing comics again, and like tweeted this Watchmen picture. So it's like, okay, Geoff Johns clearly going to do some big Watchmen comic that's part of the new DC Rebirth arc. So really excited about that. But then he talked about the new DC TV show that I did a video about yesterday, and even though he was kind of quiet about it, there's also the Batman movie, but just because that's so far off, there's still a lot about the movie and the characters they put in it, the story they go with that could change, that they just don't want to talk too much about it and then have it all be different when it actually gets here. So while it is really funny to hear Ben Affleck sort of like mess with people a little bit, and this is actually with The Guardian that he's talking to, so while it is kind of funny to hear Ben Affleck say that he might not do the Batman movie, really I think that's just like a little bit of him hedging his bets and his sense of humor. Because like if you talk to Kevin Smith, he tells the best Ben Affleck stories. Like I said, there's like 3 different eras of Ben Affleck, depending on who you're talking to. There's like the Kevin Smith, young Ben Affleck, who he says was just like crazy fun to hang out with. That's from like the 90s all the way up to the early 2000s. Then he starts to hit it big. Kevin Smith tells this funny story about how he would just go off, just open his mouth and get in so much trouble going on rants that would sometimes get him in trouble and cost him movie projects. Really good example of that is him going off on Deflategate, which isn't a Hollywood issue, but you have to imagine him being like this as a young person in Hollywood all the time about Hollywood stuff. So this is just hilarious. Watch this.
Deflategate is the ultimate bullshit fucking outrage of sports ever. It's so fucking stupid that I can't believe. You realize they gave him a suspension for a quarter of the regular season, which would be equivalent of suspending a baseball player for 40 fucking days, 40 and a quarter days to be exact, which is what they do for when you get busted taking steroids.
Right.
Which, and by the way, if the NFL had a real testing, if it really knew how to test for steroids and HGH in the
They'd be in trouble.
there'd be no fucking NFL.
Right.
So instead, what they did was suspend Tom Brady for 4 days for not giving them his fucking cell phone. And for having a friend who called himself the Deflator. If I got in trouble for all the things that my friends called themselves, I would be finished, okay? You want to give a guy, because he doesn't give you his cell phone, a punishment? I would never give the organization as leak-prone as the NFL my fucking cell phone so you could just look through my emails and listen to my voicemail.
Especially the NFL, the league that leaks everything.
That's right. So first thing they're going to do is leak this shit. And I don't know, maybe it's funny, lovely sex messages from his wife. Maybe it's just friendly messages from his wife. Maybe Tom Brady's so fucking classy and such a fucking gentleman that he doesn't want people to know that he may have reflected on his real opinion of some of his coworkers. You know, like guys he plays with, guys he plays against, his real feelings. I wouldn't want guys who I didn't think were very good to know I didn't think they were very good. I wouldn't want guys who I thought were great to know I thought they were great. I'd want keep my opinions to myself. Surely his opinions about professional football are contained in his emails and his texts and his fucking telephone. Not giving your telephone, they're not the FBI. You're not required to, this isn't fucking federal subpoena. You're not required to turn over your bank records.
You know what it's really about now?
This is a conspiracy of people working inside the NFL who all come from organizations that Tom Brady whipped their ass over the last 10 and 15 years. So there's guys who work for the fucking Jets and the Broncos and everybody else who are now going like, get him, hang him. You know, because they have some slight, flimsy fucking pretense. And Tom is so classy.
So you agree it's a smear campaign?
It's a fucking ridiculous smear campaign.
So I would have included more of that. It was just so epic, but because it's about football, not about, DC comic book, Batman related stuff, you get the idea. Don't you wish that actors felt free enough to speak their mind in that way without fear of reprisal from big studios, pulling projects out from under them? It's just like the best thing ever. This is your glorious F-bomb dropping Batman that you've been waiting for this whole time. So we got a publicist, and Kevin Smith kind of jokes that the publicist told him to start shutting his mouth. So you have like the Gigli era Ben Affleck after that. His career sort of craters, and then he has the Renaissance when he sort of reinvents himself as a director. And like the other big thing that happened right before that is that he met Jennifer Garner. So you sort of have like the director era Ben Affleck and the Jennifer Garner era Ben Affleck around the same time. That was around 2005, 2007, because Gone Baby Gone was like his first big movie to direct. So that's sort of like the beginning of the Ben Affleck that you're seeing today, like the more creative, visionary, auteur version of Ben Affleck. So I'm really interested to see what his Batman movie is like. Most people just look at Ben Affleck and they see Daredevil, or they see like the Kevin Smith era Ben Affleck, but he's really completely different. Like Kevin Smith talks a lot about him, like he's really sad because they don't hang out anymore. He's like, yeah, I haven't really hung out with Ben Affleck in the last 10 years or so since he started going out with Jennifer Garner. He attributes that to Jennifer Garner just absolutely hating him because of the way that he used to talk with Ben Affleck. Like they used to make fun of each other like friends do, but she took it a little personally. So they had a big falling out, and that was the end of Kevin Smith hanging out with Ben Affleck. It's really fun to see Kevin Smith doing all the DC TV stuff now, so this is sort of like his second wind in superhero land. But it's kind of funny to see him wistfully remember his time hanging out with the person who is now the biggest star on the planet playing Batman. So given the way Kevin Smith talks about Ben Affleck behind the scenes, like the real Ben Affleck, the one that you don't see in front of all the cameras, is he's just messing with people a little bit. Everything is going to be fine with the Batman movie. He's just trolling just a little bit, having a little bit of fun. So at the end of the day, they're just trying to avoid running into like a Batman Returns to Batman Forever and Batman and Robin trajectory. Like they don't want this to all go down the toilet, then have to wait like another 10 years for another Christopher Nolan to come along. And just for those that are asking, Christopher Nolan hasn't been involved creatively with any of the DC stuff that they've done since the Man of Steel movie came out. That was his last time consulting on a DC project, and he wasn't even that involved with that movie. Like, he had a producer credit on it, and I think that they brought him in just because his time on Batman had been so influential on the way people thought of superheroes. Like, it was such a real take on the Batman, and they wanted to do that same thing for Superman, even though I think that was kind of a mistake. Like, Man of Steel was a fun movie, but it wasn't quite as fun as it could have been. But you have to remember that a lot of the producers, like the people in creative control over the movies, have largely been shuffled out of Warner Brothers, and people like Jeff Johns have been brought in. So one of the biggest things they did during 2016, which is, making me really excited for 2017, is change the creative energy behind the scenes. Like, the people pulling the strings are now the right people pulling the strings. So worst case scenario, when they say, if the script doesn't come together, we're not going to do a Batman movie, it's just going to take a little bit longer to get here, which I'm totally fine with. Like, it's okay if they push the Batman movie even like another year just because they can't crack the script. There are so many superhero, comic book, Star Wars movies coming in the next 2 years that if one of them doesn't come, you won't notice. Like, there's literally more movies than most kids have money to pay to go see. So do not freak out, but let me know, like, what do you guys think about Ben Affleck just messing with people behind the scenes? Just like, hey, maybe I won't do a Batman movie. Like, we all totally think that he's gonna do the Batman movie. There's no way that he's not gonna do it eventually. It just might not happen right away. But for those of you asking about the Justice League trailer, so I actually didn't realize that they bumped his Live by Night movie. So because that's coming out within 2 weeks of the Super Bowl, I would not be surprised if that's when the Justice League trailer comes, because originally his movie was going to be a Christmas movie. So I'm like, okay, that's probably when they're going to drop some new Justice League footage, and then they'll do something else when the Super Bowl happens. But because they pushed it, it's all coming out around the same time. So that just seems like the next best place for it to drop. But when they do drop it, it's going to look a lot more polished than the stuff that they dropped so far. Like, even the Comic-Con footage that they dropped earlier was just work print. The behind the scenes video was just green screen. It was literally just somebody filming them walking around on the sets. It wasn't like actual finished footage. So it is going to be an awesome 2017. And this is just talking about the DC stuff. This has nothing to do with all the big Marvel stuff and Star Wars Episode 8. You have to remember, there's all that other stuff that's dropping this year. So what I'm going to do later today is post a video for like all the big stuff that's coming just in the next couple of months. Like, for instance, Legion is a brand new X-Men TV show that's dropping on FX, so most people might not be aware of some of the stuff that's coming. There's a couple really cool things that dropped during Christmas, like Troll Hunters, that you may not have seen, so I'm just going to do a video for that later tonight, so look out for that. But I will say congratulations to the latest Flash Ring giveaway winner, Sean J. Please private message me on the back end of my channel so I can get your contact details. There was a new round that started in this video. I'll just announce the winner the next time I post a DC video. While you guys wait for that to post, you can click here to learn all about that new DC TV show that's coming this year, and you can click here to rewatch that Justice League footage. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. Let's high five. I'll see you guys tonight.